Okay, so I will try to be short and a little bit interactive. So this is Kole. He's my pal. He's a videographer. And when the invasion started in Ukraine in February 2022, he also became a volunteer of our foundation. So that's why his photo is here. How to do that? Oh. Yeah, so a little bit about the foundation, what we do. I am myself a journalist, and I have spent 20 years of my life with journalism. So this is my profession. I started when I was 16. And my topic was and is hostile environment, human rights abuse, wars, conflicts, terrorism, very positive stories. The last 10 years of my life I've been covering war, mostly in Ukraine, but also I was covering the war on ISIS in Iraq, Syria, Turkey, Georgia, and other countries. When Russia decided to invade Ukraine 2 years ago, 2.5, that was quite a challenge even for me because that was something that never happened before anywhere. So the full-scale invasion was so overwhelming for everyone. And also for journalists, because we as journalists and editors and producers or photographers, we found ourselves kind of naked, unprepared for such a full-scale crisis. We found ourselves in the situation when we had to react on the events unfolding in our own country. But at the same moment, we had to deal with our families, with our colleagues and friends. We had to do something to be safe and to continue reporting. So that was quite a challenge, almost impossible actually. When it started, a bunch of journalists who were experienced in war reporting started the 2042 Foundation. And the first goal, the initial goal, was to find bulletproof vests and helmets and provide them to other journalists. And then we quickly realized that without knowledge and skills, this personal protection equipment will be just useless. So we started designing our own training program, hostile environment first aid training, to help our colleagues to survive the war, to continue reporting, to help them with skills that they never had before. And it was quite unique. So we had thousands of journalists living and working in Ukraine. And I guess when it comes to Ukrainian journalists, we have numbers of tens of thousands of journalists. So it's quite a lot of people around the country. And also there were already several thousands of foreign correspondents or people who went to Ukraine to report on this full-scale invasion. So we identified a huge need of this safety education. And so far, in the last 2 years, we have trained more than 1,000 journalists with safety training. We also started doing some mental well-being and resilience training and workshops, and we continue doing that. We just launched a project aimed at designing a new training program for resilience skills, which is quite unique. And we use a lot of innovations in our approach. So we use, for example, virtual reality in our safety training. It's practically two different trainings. One for civil unrest situation, when you can experience reporting from the civil protests in the middle of the city. It could be a different city. It could be in Sofia, in Tbilisi, Kiev, London, elsewhere. And the second one is digital security. And digital security is the training that most of the journalists would find very boring. It's really hard to convince people to learn more about digital safety. So with virtual reality, it becomes a lot more efficient. So more people kind of interested in that, because it creates the situation where you realize that the skills that you have or you don't have could lead to some troubles in real life. So this combining of learning about virtual security and the consequences in real life kind of help to tackle this particular problem. This is why we do journalism. This is a very important question that we ask every group of journalists while conducting a training. And I will just say a few of them, and I invite you to tell your own explanation why you do journalism. So most of the Ukrainian journalists say that they want to make the world fairer and better, to fight for truth and justice, to cover topics important to me and society. Could you just say a few words about why you do journalism, why it's important? Hmm?
Because I cover human rights as well, and I often ask myself, why do I do this to myself and to when it rarely actually makes a difference? And so the explanation that works for me is that we kind of leave a trace in history, because otherwise nobody else would tell these stories. And maybe someday they can serve for future justice, not now necessarily.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, thanks. Anyone else? Yeah, please. Can you have a microphone?
Hi. I can talk a lot about why I'm doing this, but I want to share a point of view that is relevant to what is happening in Bulgaria, especially with the perspective of the elections that just passed. Unfortunately, a lot of our colleagues had took the road to be a PR of the authorities, which is not leading us to the right direction, because I think that the journalist has to be a mirror, not just a PR of the authorities. And that's why I am a journalist.
Okay, thank you so much. Anyone else? Or, yeah, just the last one.
My personal motivation is because I like to tell stories, and the stories are the things that hold the human memory. In all of our history, before we had the historians, we had people who gathered around the fire maybe and tell stories one another. And that's how we pass memories through the generations.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I think, and what I'm hearing here is practically the same that I hear elsewhere. So journalists are very motivated people who really like telling their stories, and they want to make a difference while telling those stories. At least the journalists that I meet. Maybe for someone else it's different. But what I would like to kind of extract from this mission-driven reason is the outcome that can sometimes happen. So here is I'm telling this story about very extreme situation for journalism, right? So not every journalist live and work in the country at war, especially this kind of war that we have in Ukraine. And I guess for Bulgaria, it's completely different situation. But you still have you have elections, right? But still you have this impact of the election when they fail, when you cannot build the society that you would like to build, or see the society that you would like to see and live in. But this is kind of a very extreme example of what happens when you do not calculate your risk and when you don't think about your safety properly. And this is the example that all our trainees get during the safety training. So risk in a hostile environment is a conscious acceptance of the chance of death and injury if a person evaluates the outcome within the scope of the goal as a price to be paid, which is very complicated language here, right? But it's military language. So we use that to kind of to show that risk management comes from military experience and expertise. So this is what military use while describing risks in the war zone. What does it mean in real life is that when you go to the front line to report on the war and you're a journalist and you want to tell the story because it's very important, and then you decide where you should stay, in the hotel or an apartment or at friends, and then you stay at the hotel in the middle of the war zone, and then Russian missile kind of destroy the hotel, and this is the case of the Reuters team that happened just recently, 2 months ago. The safety advisor died on the scene just right after the explosion. And 2 more journalists were heavily injured, and one of them still struggling for life, which is really unfortunate. And also, if you would like to investigate this case, you also would ask, what did they do in the war zone? What did they do in Kramatorsk? What kind of story they were reporting on? And they practically were recording very obvious story about evacuation from their war-torn town, which would be just in a newsfeed. It's a small story, just ordinary story. And when we teach risk assessment and safety at our courses, we always ask people, do you understand that the story you're making in the war zone can practically kill you, or can cause injuries that you will be struggling with for your whole life? This is a tough question because we are in the very peaceful Sofia, but when it comes to a war situation, this is the groundbreaking question for journalists, because after that question, journalists start realizing that this is not only about the story, this is also about the life, this is also about the health, and they start kind of rethinking the whole approach of their journalism. And it practically leads to a better journalism. So when people realize that they could be killed for their story, then they start thinking more closely, more more detailed about their story. They make efforts to make it, the best story they could do, because they know the value of it. They know that they sacrifice a lot to make this story. Just a few words about the safety education and how it works with journalism elsewhere, not only in the so-called hostile environment. It helps to build resilience, the words and the term that we talked a lot today. This is very important for journalism, to build this resilient skills and get the right training. We try to kind of integrate mental well-being practices and questionnaire in our safety training, even though it is not a requirement for this particular hostile environment first aid course. But asking small questions like, what do you do for your well-being on an everyday basis? It kind of motivates people to think about that. If they don't do that, they would definitely think about that after the course. We also talk a little bit about ethical standards in challenging situations. We discuss ethical problems while doing our trainings. We provide practical training and guidance that can help journalists to navigate crisis. And we also build strong communication skills. We try to build strong communication skills within community, within journalism. And what I found really interesting is that journalists are not really good at communications, right? Because we often build these walls between us and our people who we are interviewing, or authorities or audiences. We build these walls in the sake of objectivity, neutrality, or something that we think is a good journalism, right? So we often build these walls. And what I found crucial, especially when started looking closely into mental health and well-being practices in journalism, is that when you start emphasizing to yourself and to people you're interviewing, when you start communicating with them properly, like we've heard an excellent presentation about the photography and how you can communicate with your people and with your audiences, how you can hear them and really try to hear them, hear what they're saying, what their needs are. Then you start doing also better journalism. So I found crucial to build more communication skills. And it happens so that communication skills are crucial to survival. Because when you end up in the extreme situation, under the fire, you clearly see the threat. You need to communicate with each other. You need to ask for help, or you need to kind of provide this help by speaking with person. So this is really crucial, and sometimes we think that we as journalists are very, very good at communication, which in certain way true, but when it comes to real skills of communication, we really need to pay more attention on that, because otherwise we would be focused only on stories and on delivering stories and newsfeed, but not on the needs that lie deeper, you know, in people and in the audiences and in ourselves. So what I suggest from the experience we have in Ukraine, and once again, it's an extreme situation. You don't need the whole bunch of tools that we need, but what you can learn from that is that protection of journalists is important. It's not only the word is practical skills and equipment sometimes. So if tomorrow you have civil unrest in the city or across the country, then you need to know what you can do to protect your people. And it's a bunch of stuff. So you need to learn more about resources that are available. You need to, if you're an editor-in-chief or a senior correspondent, you need to know the basics of safety so that when something happens, you already kind of know how to react, where to run. Emotional support, and the whole conference is about that, right? So I would not speak in a lot about that, but it's also important if you run in a newsroom. You definitely should find and offer mental health support to journalists who cover some uneasy topics. And what I found out about Bulgarian situation is that there is a very high level of burnout among journalists regarding the election fail. Sorry, so it kind of leads to burnout, and this is something that I hear a lot from Georgia, for example, from Moldova, from other countries that have this history of continued troubles in the democracy process. So it leads to burnout, and we need to take action. We need to do something with that, because otherwise the whole newsroom can just collapse in one moment. Community building is important as well. So more than 1,000 journalists that we have trained, they have now a certain common sense on safety and sanity, and they kind of use that when they. This is something that is really important for people to find the right community, and safety and mental well-being is a very community kind of focused area. This is something that if a person share these values of importance of human life and health, then it's a really, really good source for building community. Practically what I was trying to say here is that we need safety culture to ensure a safe future. And this is relevant for any country, any community across the globe. We are facing really awful threats globally, and we can share these experiences. We can share our knowledge and our pains, and it will help us to survive and stay sane. And there is a lot of things that you can do, and it requires courage, it requires motivation, it requires resources that sometimes is really hard to find, but we still can share the knowledge and skills we have, because it's important for survival and for the future. So if you think that you need some resources and need more knowledge and skills, and you would like to hear more about how to build this safety culture, where to start or where to continue, or what you can do more, then I'm always open to answer. I really like to share everything we got from our extreme experience. Thank you so much.